Sup, Steve Kirks?
And it's Doty. And we just had an awesome conversation with Michael Mans.
Yeah, Michael, really inspirational story. Prior to his sophomore year in high school, he was on a fishing trip with his dad, and his dad was driving back with Michael in the car and asked him to pull over, and had a heart attack and ultimately passed away.
It's crazy. Just the thought of that just kind of really hit right to the chest of imagining being that at that age, having to drive your father to the hospital and then watching him pass. Don't wish that upon anyone. So for him to be able to share that story, it's something special.
Yeah, really inspirational story. After his dad passed away, he moved to Molalla, Oregon, which is where our paths crossed, and eventually he used that fuel to light the fire, and ultimately walked on to the University of Oregon and became the most inspirational player on their football team his senior year.
Which is crazy because he was saying when he first walked on, he was the smallest kid on the field, and he kept showing up. He kept being there. He kept owning his own role, which I thought was so awesome because I don't think a lot of people do that enough. Like, know your role and then own it and then be the best at it. So just his wisdom on that and how he continued to do that to where he is now, it was awesome.
Yeah. One thing I took away, he said he continued to show up for 5 years. He even paid his tuition for 5 years because he wanted to be part of the experience. Now he's a police officer, trying to do the right thing in the world. So I thought it was great pod.
Awesome. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's do this.
Let's go. Michael Mans, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Kirkham. Thanks for having me, man.
Michael, heard a lot about you. What are you sipping on?
I'm sipping on this Essentia, the overachieving H2O. It's my favorite water. I'd be drinking it all the time now.
Athlete. Just got done with the second workout of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the listeners, we are recording at 9 p.m. right now.
So
go hard or go home.
Dodie, what are you? Yeah,
I'm sipping on.
Sipping on some Clutch coffee. What are you sipping on?
Some good old Clutch coffee.
We're off to a unique start tonight. Mans, so I know you from coaching basketball at Molalla, but before Molalla, you last lived in Idaho, American Falls, Idaho, and you moved to Molalla right before your sophomore year in high school. There's a story about you being with your dad. I think you were fishing, and your dad passed away, had a little medical malfunction. Can you give us that story?
Yeah, I'll just give you guys the quick rundown. Basically, I just finished my freshman year, had a whole, set of friends. We were playing sports together, looking forward to going to my sophomore year. I went fishing with my dad. My dad, I didn't think he was in bad health, but apparently he was, and he had a heart attack at 42. I watched him pass away in front of me. It was rough at the time when I was a young kid. Kind of didn't know where to go in the world after that or what was going to happen. I remember vividly like sitting at the hospital and just kind of after I found out he had passed, just like, what's next? Like looking off into the distance. At that age, you really don't know what's next in your life. But thankfully, I had my grandparents, they took me in here in Oregon. So I moved out here and kind of started a new life.
You were fishing though, right? Wasn't he driving back and he had to pull over and ask you to drive him to the hospital?
So what happened was I had my permit at the time. I was, I think I just turned 15. You can get your permit pretty early there in Idaho. And so, yeah, he asked to pull over and then asked me to drive. And so I went to switch with him, and that's when he actually like collapsed. And I'm screaming for help, obviously call 911. It was like in a small city that we pulled over next to a park. Some people came and helped. ambulance took him to the hospital, and then I drove the truck by myself following the ambulance to the hospital.
What's it
By
feel like?
yourself. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm like, probably like, I remember those moments, and just I remember my heart beating so fast, and just like, you're praying that he's going to be okay. And you're like, is this really happening? Like, it was one of those moments in your life. It's like, is this real? Like, what's going on? And the whole time I was pretty optimistic, like, oh, he's going to be fine. Like, it's just, a medical thing, but it wasn't the case. And it was a tough pill to swallow. But, sometimes I really do think my life would look nothing like it does now if that wouldn't have happened. So you just got to take, the negatives and turn them into positives.
So I know, hey, for the record, everybody's been telling me I say so too much, so I'm going to stop saying so. You moved to Molalla, move in with your grandparents. Isn't it Barbara and Craig? Is that Barbara and Craig?
No, it's Barbara and Ken.
Barbara and Ken. I knew that. I did know that. So Barbara and Ken,
Yeah.
right before your sophomore year, what did you think of Molalla? What was that transition like?
Honestly, Molalla was pretty good. I mean, I met some friends throughout my time there, and it was a small town, so it was kind of hard at first when you first move somewhere new and you're already a quiet kid and you just went through kind of a tragedy, and like you don't know what you're doing. But over time, kind of got accepted there and really just dove into sports, man. That was my thing. That was kind of the way that I figured out how to get everything out that was going on inside of me internally, was through sports. So I really clung to that.
What sports did you get into?
I mean, my first love was really basketball growing up, and
Good sport.
I love basketball, like especially growing up. But once I got into high school and went through what I went through, I was kind of angry inside, and so football was just that perfect thing for me that I fell in love with, because I could get out my anger for free. I could hit people and just kind of express myself in that way. And that was the sport that I really fell in love with in high school.
Yeah, you played basketball or you played football. You moved to Molalla. You probably immediately jumped into like summer camp, and football, right?
Yeah, I think I started in the fall. I played JV my first year in Molalla, and then ended up, playing basketball in the winter. And I think you were coaching my first years there, right?
Yeah, I think that was the first year I helped volunteer coaching basketball.
Yeah.
I was telling Doty, I'm going to throw you under the bus right now. Like, Michael Manns didn't sniff his left hand.
Oh, I have a horrible left hand. I couldn't finish with my left whatsoever. I still can't, playing street ball. I can't still finish with the right, but
There's a lot of good basketball players who still can't use their left hand. So I think that's okay.
Yeah.
What year did you coach, Kirk?
I don't 2009. I think was my first year there.
2009. So what year did you coach Michael?
2000. Well, I never was his direct coach. I was always a varsity assistant. 2009, 2010, 2011. So, right? Is that right, Mike? You graduate high school in 2011?
2012, but yeah, you would have coached in that 2011 year. Yeah.
Okay. So,
man, making me feel old. I graduated college in 2012.
Oh yeah, shoot. It's coaching high school. Okay. You're
Kirk,
playing
when did you graduate high school?
2003. Is that funny?
Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, it does. It makes me feel a lot better. Anyway.
I don't know why I'm just thought about this. Michael and all of his crew are the ones that got me hooked on She's Out of My League.
Really?
Jack Marcourt called me Kirkers, which is now like Man's best friend. Like he still, I sent me a message on IG the other day. Like, yeah, what's up, Kirkers?
Oh my God. So for our listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, check out
Katie's pod.
Yeah.
Okay, let's transition back to Michael here.
Back in.
Man's, so you play basketball or football and basketball. your junior year football, you on varsity starting quarterback or cornerback. Do you have a good season? You finish all league?
Yeah, I think I got second team all league, just kind of developing as a player. But that was when I really got a chance, an opportunity on varsity, and just started to excel more at that sport, and really fell in love with it.
How about basketball?
Yeah, basketball was fun. I mean, I think I was more of just like a energy guy, kind of like defense and all that. Like we had our scorers and stuff, and I wasn't as good at basketball as I used to be honest. So I started to just focus more on football, I guess.
And your focus on football after your junior year of high school, you're at a camp and you meet Coach Neal, who is a position coach at University of Oregon, and you made an impression on him. Do you remember that?
I remember vividly because there was another kid in the state, O'Shea Dunmore. He went to, I believe, Newport High School.
Yep.
He was a top recruit in the state at the time. So he was at that camp, same camp as me. And I remember looking at O'Shea like, dang, big shot, man. Like, and I just remember going into that camp and just thinking mentally, like, all right, if you want to compete with the best of the best, you got your chance right here, And so that day I did as best as I could. And I kind of stood out, and Coach Neal kind of pulled me to the side and he said, look, you can play. Like, you can play. You need to have confidence in your abilities, go back to your senior year and really do what you can do. And kind of just made a big impression on me that day, instilled a bunch of confidence in me, hearing from a guy who's a D1 position coach at the dream school. I grew up watching the Oregon Ducks with my dad, always wanted to go there. So yeah, it was like a surreal moment for me in that summer camp.
And what camp was that?
I believe it was the Gene Foreman camp down in Southern Oregon.
Okay.
Yep. So you come back, you had a pretty good senior year. Do you remember your stats?
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember my stats specifically, but I know I had a good senior year. I got some opportunity because one of our best players got hurt on offense at receiver. I stepped in, kind of filled his role, and just kind of, showed that I can play and had a good time doing it. I think I still hold the record, at least at Molalla, for longest touchdowns, like 99 yards. I had 2 of them in one season. So take a little bit of pride in that.
Mhm.
So didn't you how many interceptions you had? You had a bunch of interceptions that year too.
Yeah, I think, well, my very first play on varsity as a junior was an interception. And I ran that back like Michael Vick, one-handed. That was fun. But anyways, in my senior year, yeah, I had a knack for the ball, man. I would just go up in the air and get it. I think I had 5 or 6 picks at least. And then, at practice, the coaches and the guys would just always say, like, Mans is a ball hawk. He's always getting the ball. I'd go up and get it. That was my thing.
The best compliment.
Do you have college coaches knocking on your door immediately after your senior season?
No, man. So like I had some like smaller schools interested in me, but that was like, I'm going to have to pay my way into college. And I don't know, like Pacific University wanted me. Western Oregon was like, you could probably come here. So there was definitely smaller opportunities, but I was like always thinking bigger, like, man, I can play. Like Coach Neal instilled all this confidence in me. And so after my senior year, that was back when we had Huddle, and I just made like a senior highlight tape and I sent it out. I emailed this thing out to like every college coach on the West Coast, like D1, like every program. And I didn't hear back from hardly like none of them pretty much. Coach Neal was literally the only one who responded. Obviously I had the prior connection, so that obviously helped, but it's like I took the initiative to, recruit myself essentially. And that's like just a big lesson for anybody out there. If you have something you want to do, you got to try to make it happen. You literally have to. Because if you do, you never know what's going to happen. And for me, that opportunity, led to more things, and I was able to go to Oregon because of me just, wanting to so bad, like not taking no for an answer, kind of.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah. I want to read you something, Michael. I got this queued up for you right here. You know what I'm about to read? Hey.
I'm not sure. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach Neal. I met you down in the Gene Foreman camp this past summer. I had a terrific outing at the camp and showcased my football skills. I remember you pulling me aside and telling me that I was a damn good football player. You told me that I was good even though I lacked the size that most players have, and that I was one of the best players out there. That I had a knack for the ball when it went up in the air. You installed so much confidence in myself, even though I was already a confident player. You helped boost me even more, and I went off and had a memorable senior season at my high school. I wanted to thank you personally for that and share my senior highlights with you. Thus, the huddle. Also, congratulations on the Rose Bowl victory. I'm looking forward to the challenge of playing football in college. It's something I have a passion for, and I can't wait to work on my game. I'm weighing several options, mostly smaller schools at this point with the chance of more playing time. But if I had a chance of walking on at Oregon, I would surely be open to it. So I would be grateful if you watched my highlights and told me if I stand a chance of walking onto the football team at the University of Oregon. It's always been a dream of mine to get there in any Division I school, and I'll go the hard way if that's what it takes. Anyways, thanks again for that experience at the Foreman camp, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Michael Manns, Molalla High School, senior wide receiver, defensive back, Molalla, Oregon. It's your email you wrote to Coach Neal.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's an 18-year-old me. Ambition, man. Like that spells it out right there. Like I was just very ambitious at the time. I didn't think, anybody could stop me, really. It was like the way I wrote that, man, just I was pursuing a dream.
Do you remember his response?
Thinking back on it, I know he responded, and he basically told me like something like, we'll see what we can do. Like no guarantees at this point. But keep, apply to the school, get everything in order. But he basically just told me, there's a chance, but I can't guarantee you the spot.
I don't know what you think, Doty, but the fact that like only one coach responded to his highlights and it happened to be like, a team just fresh coming off a Rose Bowl victory, that's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah. And I'm thinking about this, like you had to cut your own film, had to send that out to people, to coaches, and then not hear any response back. That's got to be like an ego kill. Like that's got to hurt a little bit. Like, how did you respond to that? Like, how did you keep that confidence and keep going, not hearing from anybody?
I think at the time I did kind of feel like, man, like
Defeated.
I'm not really getting responses from D1 programs. Like I was getting some from smaller schools, and that just kind of wasn't what I wanted, because I felt like, I was good enough to play at that level, or at least walk on at that level. And so I just, went back to my faith and the belief in myself. And, fortunately, Coach Neal was the one who responded. So, I mean, it just worked out.
Do you think he would have responded if you didn't go to that camp?
There's no way.
There's
so it was
no
all,
way.
the setup was just too perfect, I
Put
think,
Put yourself out there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, when you get an opportunity, you have to make the most of it, and you never know what's going to come down the line because of you performing in that opportunity, right? So I was able to get my foot in the door essentially like way prior, and then I just followed it up, pitching this dream of mine.
Follow up. That's huge. How tall are you and how much do you weigh, if you don't mind me asking? Or did you weigh back then when you're getting recruited?
Like 5'10", 5'11", 165.
Okay.
So
that's a big deal in football world. Yeah.
Buck 65 sounds like a lot to me, man. I don't remember you being.
Have you seen it? Have you seen photos of him? He's ripped.
Maybe 155.
Now.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I was small, but I wasn't afraid to hit anybody.
Yeah, I want to transition to that. So you wrote Coach Neal. you played basketball your senior year. What was your senior year basketball season like? I remember this pretty vividly.
You learn a left hand?
No.
No. Okay.
Once again, like I was mainly like a defensive guy. You guys would always have me guard the best player on the other team or one of the best players. And I remember senior year of basketball, I rolled my ankle pretty bad.
Very badly.
And it was like, it sucked because I had been invited to play in the Shrine game, which is like the all-star game for 1A through 4A in the state of Oregon. So I was worried about that, jeopardizing that opportunity, and then just obviously training and getting ready for football at Oregon. So, but, got through that injury, I think, and I did come back at the end of the season and get to play more, I believe.
I think you played like the final 4 games, and I was telling Doty before we jumped on, I remember one story in particular. You were fresh off your ankle injury, meaning like you had your foot in the garbage, little garbage pail on the sideline, icing that thing constantly. But we played Madras High School, and defending league player of the year, Bobby Ahern, and I think it was your first game back. Michael played on like one leg, and I'm not sure if Bobby had 5 points that game. You remember that? I mean, we beat them, which for the first time that year, like we really like showed up, and it was single. I remember talking to Coach King afterwards, like single-handedly Michael Manns won us that game because he just straight stopped Bobby Ahern.
Yeah, my foot was in the ice bucket before the game.
I think so. Yeah. I think we like
a picture of that. Yeah, there's a picture of that. I remember.
Okay, who says defense doesn't win games?
Me.
D. Kirk.
Shoot it before you turn it over. Okay. I want to keep progressing this. I know in that email or at some point in time, Coach Neal said, Michael, I think you need to get faster. You should run track. So you ran track your senior year.
Yeah, I did that. That was just his recommendation, just it's Oregon. They're literally a program built on speed. And I wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but I ran track my senior year. I wish, honestly, I would have ran track all throughout high school. It would have helped me tremendously just going to that next level. But I ran it my senior year and it was all right. I had a good time.
Well, I mean, just the fact that you did it just for a potential to go to your dream school shows a lot of ambition, right? I mean, I'm not sure I would do that.
Yeah, and they placed me on all, like the 4x4, like
the worst
400, ones. Yeah, all the worst ones, that no one wants to do.
Well, you're probably the fastest guy on our high school team, weren't you? I mean, you had to be one of the
I was close, but not, we had some sprinters, man, like Bryce Leadham and.
Oh yeah, Bryce was fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so at some point in time, you go all summer and you're just working your butt off. You don't know if you're going to Oregon. You're in contact with Coach Neal. What's that timeline? Give us the timeline of how Coach Neal's talking back and forth with you ultimately to what fall camp kicks off.
So honestly, I can't remember exactly the timeline, but I know throughout the summer we were in constant email communication. And at one point, I went down there and I visited him with my high school coach.
Yeah.
So we went down there, had a meeting, and it was basically like my high school coach, like selling me to him, like trying to tell him, hey, look, this guy can play. And I'll be forever grateful for Coach Mitchell for that, Caleb Mitchell. He's definitely a mentor for me. I still in communication with him, have dinner with him and stuff like that. Kind of like a father figure, really. So he passed me along to Coach Neal. Coach Neal kind of built that trust in me at that point. And then he's like, okay, look, if we can make this happen, we're going to make it happen. But I remember he's like, yeah, fall camp is like where you want to be. You want to be at fall camp, because he's like, oh, I might not be able to bring you into fall camp, but I can get you in after fall camp when the season starts.
Yeah, when the roster explodes up more than 105 roster.
You can get more people on the roster. That's typically when, walk-ons are going to get their shot at that point. But I guess to my story or whatever, some guy decided to transfer a receiver like last minute before fall camp. That opened a spot for me, and they plugged me in. And yeah, it was just kind of a blessing for me because it ended up being like when I reported to fall camp, I remember getting the letter from Coach Kelly actually that saying, "Hey, you're going to report to fall camp on this day." And it was actually the same day like of my dad's death anniversary. So it's just like, man, like crazy. What a coincidence.
Meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, when you get something like that, you kind of start to think like, okay, what's going on with the universe? Like something's going on here.
Oregon wasn't a slouch at that moment either.
No, I mean, I came in probably the best times to go to a football program like Oregon. I mean, they were at their peak, really. Just came off a Rose Bowl victory. I remember watching John Boyette just tear it up in the Rose Bowl. Like, and then I'm literally like reporting to fall camp and looking at John Boyette, like looking up to the dude, like I'm his teammate now. Like, this is crazy. I've been watching you for years.
What that first season look like? Did you get any playing time? Scout team? Did you even get to be on scout team?
Oh, I got scout team for sure. They redshirted me obviously because I came in as a walk on. They're not going to utilize me whatsoever, and I'm just small. Like I'm literally probably the smallest dude on the roster. Like probably we could go back and look up the heights and weights, but I mean I'm pretty sure I was one of the smallest guys.
You and D'Anthony Thomas?
Yeah, but I mean D'Anthony was bigger than me even. But yeah, like, and I just remember reporting to fall camp first day and going meeting the DBs on the field, and there's John Boyette, and then there's just all these other guys that don't look anything like me. And Coach Neal had to say something like super crazy. I'm like, why did you just say this? He's like, have you ever seen a black person before, Mike? And I'm like, of course I have, Coach Neal. Like, and all the dudes were just busting up laughing. But, and Coach Neal kind of knew my story. Like, he knew about my dad and all that. And so I remember during fall camp, we usually have like a barbecue at our coach's house. And I remember he wanted me to share my story with the unit that fall camp and just kind of go through it because he thought it was a great lesson for all the guys in our position group. And I remember doing that. And I mean, honestly, when I got to Oregon, I was still a pretty quiet person. I've always been a pretty quiet person. I'm developing that a lot more now, but that was like hard for me to share and open up in front of all these new teammates. But I got through it, and I think I gained a lot of respect from my peers at that point because they were able to get to know me on a deeper level.
Didn't play at all. Redshirt your freshman year, sophomore year, your redshirt freshman year. You play? Your redshirt sophomore year, did you play?
I mean, honestly, I didn't play much at Oregon. Let's just be real. I was a walk-on guy. I was like, the dude who busted my butt on scout team every year. I mean, I ended up winning scout team player of the year, at least one of the years I was there. I remember just like the first time I really got an opportunity to play was like one of our best seasons, which is when we went to the Rose Bowl. And we played, Florida State. And before that, we played in the Pac-12 championship against Arizona, who had beat us in the season, but then we dusted them at Levi Stadium. I got to play in that game and get a tackle and
just special teams, right? You're not playing downs or special teams.
No, I played downs. It was like towards the end of the game, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like scrub time. But I mean, I get to say that I played in the Pac-12 championship, the Rose Bowl. I got to go to the national championship. For me, it was always about the experience at Oregon. It wasn't about I realistically knew I probably wasn't going to get a chance to play there. Just so many guys, so many athletes. I mean, top recruits coming in every year, and it's like I just wanted to be a character guy, and I feel like during my time at Oregon, I definitely was that. I worked my butt off,
Love that.
and
Yeah, own your role.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's not
you
enough
gotta know
emphasis.
it.
Yeah, I feel like there's not enough emphasis on owning your role and being that role player and being the best at that role. Someone's got to do it, and that's what makes everybody else better.
Exactly.
And which is
Yeah.
great. It's awesome that you own that. It's huge.
Yeah.
Your senior year, is that the year Marcus won a Heisman?
No, so I think that was that was my junior year. Because it was the same year we went to the Natty, I believe, is the year he won the Heisman. I redshirted though, so yeah.
Yeah, I get that. You played football, Oregon, your senior year. You were voted most inspirational player on the team by your peers. Does that feel
Yeah,
like?
I mean, I think that just goes back to the body of work of my career. Like, I think in my mind, the whole goal a lot of the time when I was at Oregon was to get a scholarship, to get on scholarship there. And so I was trying to prove myself, and ultimately I didn't reach that goal, but getting an award like that, it definitely showed that, people noticed my work ethic. They noticed my story, everything that I'd been through, and just continued to fight till the very end. Like, I was trying to be the best teammate I could be to everybody. And I think throughout my time, I did that.
I mean, to get that award. Yeah, D. Kirk, tell us a little bit more about that award.
Yeah, I mean, I've read this recently, and I was telling Dodie before the show, you were the only person that wasn't a starter to receive an award voted on by your teammates. Do you know that?
I did not even know that, to be honest.
I mean, that's pretty awesome, right? Like normally
That
you
is
think
so
of,
awesome.
like MVP, most improved, most inspirational, kind of being like your three best dudes sometimes, right? Like I know it is in
Yeah.
basketball. I mean, here's a guy that's a walk-on, didn't play too many downs, scout team guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just like every day I showed up to the building and I worked my tail off, and I mean, people saw it. They saw it throughout the 5 years I was there. It was consistent effort. I really don't think that award was just won in a single year. I think it was won over my entire time at the program.
That was five total years.
Yeah, so I redshirted one of my years there, my first year. So
Yeah.
5 years. And I actually, to be honest, like I came back my 5th year because I never got a scholarship. So I came back and, I paid tuition just to be there, just to play football, essentially. Like, I think I took like 2 classes. I mean, I'm basically paying to play, to be a part of this, because it was everything to me at the time.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. We skimmed over a part that I think we should bring back. And you mentioned earlier on that football is your outlet because you were angry inside, and it was your way of being able to hit people and letting out some aggression in a safe way. Your freshman year, you play your first football, you're on the field, or meaning you're with the team for your first game. Your grandpa has some health conditions. Next day, grandpa passes away.
Yeah, so I mean, first game, running out of the tunnel at Autzen Stadium. There's literally nothing like it. It's a rush. My grandparents, they stayed at home because my grandpa was kind of not doing so well health-wise. So they didn't actually come to the game, but they watched on TV. Thankful that my grandpa got to see me. The game was on ESPN. So he was able to watch, and I know the camera panned on me several times, I guess.
I have that photo in my phone still, I think, guaranteed.
And so, anyways, my grandpa got to see that, and the next day, he passed away. I mean, he lived a pretty long life, so that's great, but it was still hard at the time because, my grandparents had taken me in, and I'd been around my grandpa for the last, 3 years, and he'd kind of been like a mentor, father figure type thing, and it was just like, another challenge, in my life. But we got through it, and I was built to go through hard things. I really feel that way.
Yeah, that's your first year, your first game. I mean, that has to fuel the anger, that fueled the inspiration to continue for 5 years to become the player that you were your senior year to receive that award, right?
Yeah, I mean, my drive was always very high, mainly because of my dad and then also my grandpa. Like those were it's just like added fuel to the fire for me. I always think about those two people, just because they taught me so much growing up, and I'm trying to be the best I can be, so.
On the lines of being the best you could be, a couple of years ago, I had you talk to my high school girls golf team. You told them about something Coach Neal instilled in you, talked about the 5 steps of competitive greatness. Do you remember the 5 steps of competitive greatness?
I do. So spirit, number one, you got to have spirit in anything that you do. Because without that, I mean, how are you even going to start? Number two, you got to have the will to do it. And will is very powerful. You can overcome a lot of things in this world with will. Number three is position mastery. So whatever you're doing, you have to become a master at it. And it's going to take a lot of reps or a lot of hours or whatever it is to become a true master at something. So you have to put in the work. You can't cheat it. There's no cheating it. And number four is execute. So when it's time to execute, you gotta execute. You've done all these steps. Now you gotta execute. And then the last step, which is I think the most important, is just be at your best when your best is needed. So you talk about fourth quarter, games on the line, whatever the sport is or whatever the competition is, those clutch moments, that's what separates, the good from the great.
Love that.
Love
I mean,
it.
I absolutely love that. I'm fairly certain that somewhere tied to Wooden, because I know he has a pyramid of greatness, and I believe he talks about the competitive greatness. But 5th step of competitive greatness, I think about it all the time on the golf course. Be your best when your best is needed, and I always tell myself like, okay, I'm the fucking man, just as like a mantra to put like that positive thought back in my brain. It's like I've done the
Yep.
work. Be your best when your best is needed. Love that.
Yep.
What'd you graduate in? What degree you get?
I got a degree in general social science with a focus in economics and business.
So transition to right now. You're a police officer at Canby, Oregon. Has nothing to do with what you studied really at University of Oregon. Tell us about being a police officer.
Well, I think really like just to make sense of why I came back to this area and why I got a job there. Just because my grandma and the friends that I made here, they were kind of always there. Even
Where is
throughout
here?
college.
Where is here?
Molalla, Oregon.
Shout out.
Small town. But anyways, just came back here trying to figure life out after being a college grad. I think that's something that's needed. And I've talked to a lot of my friends nowadays about this, is like that transition period for college athletes from their sport to a career. There needs to be more guidance or whatever in that space. But anyways,
100%.
yeah. And I think it's very much needed.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah, came back home and wanted to be kind of close to this area. And I thought, law enforcement was something that I could try out, just because I felt like a lot of the skills I learned in sports would transition over to law enforcement, being part of a team, kind of a collective unit. And a lot of it did. But being a police officer, I don't know. It has its good things and its bad things. It's definitely a job where every day is different for sure. And you deal with a lot of different types of stress and different situations. And obviously you see everything going on in society as well. So it it's not for everybody. I'll say that.
It's interesting. I'm watching you talk about it just to see what your emotions are like. I know your friend group pretty clearly. I see it on Instagram all the time. You guys are like super tight. That friend group isn't all Caucasian, and I'm not trying to paint you in a corner, but I'm sure that has to um, kind of mold how you are as a police officer in the society.
Yeah, so like my friend group and then also just being at Oregon from the time that I was, being in that DB room with guys that were from, different places in the world, a lot different upbringings. Being around those guys, I kind of bring all that with me when I'm working in this capacity. I try to treat everybody the same. Doesn't matter what they look like, what their skin color is. I really try to just love everybody. Like that's my motto. Like try to love and uplift everybody, and treat people fairly. If they are doing something wrong, then that's my job, right? I have to enforce it. But I'm gonna try to come to them like in a place of understanding on why we're going to that point. And everything that happens outside of where I work and everything going on, that's like it definitely affects me. I see it all, and I don't want to be a person that adds to that. You know what I mean? I really don't.
Definitely do. Do you think competitive greatness? How does competitive greatness relate to being a cop?
Well, like being a cop, I think you really fall back to the level of your training. So if you haven't prepared, if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to execute at a poor level, right? You're going to make bad decisions out there. And you're like, unfortunately, you're affecting people's lives, their livelihoods, with your decisions, your decision making. So I think, if you want to be great, you got to prepare and you got to know what you're doing. But you also got to show empathy out there. That's what I try to do. We're all human. I mean, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all do bad things. We all have done bad things. And I don't try to feel like I got all this power because I wear a badge. Like, no, I'm just like you. I'm just out there.
You're not like me because I can dribble with my left hand, Michael Mann.
That's true. That's true.
I got a college career off my left hand. What's the what's the crazy story that that you have being a cop?
Man, people ask me this all the time. You surprise when you tell people you're a cop, that's like, they want to hear the stories.
100%.
The craziest story I have, honestly, is my first night working as a police officer.
First night.
15 minutes into driving behind the wheel, and I can't go into like super detail, but basically we get into a pursuit. It's like dark, 2 a.m. in the morning. It goes about 15, 20 miles, 130 miles an hour, and ends up being a fatal crash at the end. So going through that, my first night working, that was a lot to handle. But I mean, my whole life has just been one crazy thing after another. So it's like, I'm built for this kind of stuff, I guess.
Wow. Geez, first night.
Yeah.
Welcome. That's a pretty awesome welcome.
Probably some roads I've driven probably too fast on in my past.
Yeah, probably.
Man, I want to get you out of here talking about your podcast, and I don't know quite how to ask this. Is that an outlet for like past anger? Is that an outlet just to get thoughts off your brain? Whereas you used to be able to like maybe play football and that was like your outlet to get release tension. Is that the podcast, or is the podcast trying to like instill some positivity in the world? Tell me about the podcast.
It's definitely positivity, inspiration. I've always felt like, I am an inspirational person, and, my purpose is to uplift other people. And I feel like, my path has kind of shown me that, right? And that's kind of like what I've accepted. But I also took on the podcast as just a challenge to myself, kind of just grow as a person, because I was a very quiet dude. Like I always have been. I've been very reserved, laid back, but I wanted to create something where, I'm not afraid to get on a mic and talk into it, and express my thoughts and my opinions about the world that we live in. And if I can, affect anybody in any sort of way, in a positive way, then I'm going to keep doing it and having fun doing it. And for me, it's just kind of like a motto in my life, like, what it is, ubiquitous growth, like ever present growth. I always want to be growing. I'm always trying to get better at things in my life, and I'm going to be going in all different sorts of areas, and I don't want to stop.
Love that. Dodie, I actually just keep stealing your line. I love that. I know you were a big contributor to the G-Bed project when I had that. We originally wanted to call this the G-Bed project. I hear it in your pod all the time. You're always like, I'm out here trying to get better. Give your pod a plug.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like your G-Bed project, like Get Better Every Day, just even you as a coach, Kirkham, like you inspired me. Like I always wanted to get better. You always had just this optimism about you. So thank you.
Even I was beating you guys and telling you to sit down and put your shirt on.
Yeah. I mean, but to be honest, like you have been kind of a mentor to me. I've always kind of looked to you. So thank you. And as far as the podcast, it's Ubiquitous Growth. It's on, all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple, all those.
We'll tag it in the show notes. Dodie,
I feel like you guys should just hug right now. Just get like, whatever. We're all in our own homes, but anyway.
You got any good questions before we jump in with our last question? Do some competitive banter.
That was a quick tear. No, because I can't stand hearing any more good things about you. That was fascinating. That's such a great story, and what you've overcome is, I mean, I can't imagine that. I lost my grandma last year, and I was in a dark place for a long time. So for you to be there when your dad passed, and then be living with your grandfather, and after the first time you hit the field, I feel for you, but a lot of respect and very inspiring. So thanks for sharing your story.
We're not done yet. Why is golf the greatest game ever? You ever played golf?
Man, I'm not a golfer.
Probably hit the shit out of the ball.
Or if he's lucky to hit it.
I can't hit it. Yeah, I can't hit it. I mean, I'm just not good at golf. It's definitely a mental game. I'll tell you that. And I think once I get older, I'll probably test my hand at it a little more. Keep my mental game sharp.
Let's get.
You're saying it's an old man sport?
I don't know. I feel like it takes time, and it can be an expensive hobby. I don't know, but I'm just not, I'm not a golfer at this point in my life.
Let's get you boys out golfing. You, Jack, Diego, Omar. It'd be fun. I'd love to do that. Seriously, that'd be awesome. Let's jump into some competitive banter. We're gonna go you first, Dodie second. I'm going third and fourth. Back to Dodie, back to you. So we're snake drafting like old playground days, picking up football. Current point guards. If you're gonna best point guards in the NBA right now. Man's your first.
You want me to start with my top one?
Yeah, your number one pick.
It's like the number one pick in the 2021 NBA draft. Who you picking?
You already told me before the show, you're like, I already know who you're going to pick. And of course I'm going to pick him. It's Damian Lillard. Because, I mean, Dame time, man. Like, I literally was a fan of Dame at Weber State, and when the Blazers had the chance to draft him, I was praying that they would draft him, and they did. And it was like literally the greatest night. I remember putting the Blazer cap on my grandpa's head, and I was so happy. And I'm like, this dude's gonna be a future MVP, and I still think he's gonna be an MVP someday in the league. And I think Dame's just he's bigger than basketball, really, and that's what I love about him. He's just that loyalty factor, you know, and he's just a dead-eye shooter from deep, and he can also lead your team. And I think that's his most underrated aspect of him is he is such a good leader.
This is funny to me, so I knew you were going to pick that. Man, I got to tell you, and this is Doty's going to want us to hug it out after this, but like I see a lot of you and Dame. Dame's really quiet. He's pretty humble. You know, he's a rapper. I know he used to like spit some beats in high school. You're just a leader. But I knew you were going to pick that. It's hilarious.
Such a bromance, you guys.
Doty,
I mean, honestly, I definitely look up to Dame, like straight up. I do. I mean,
Well, he brings the Blazers to the playoffs, and they beat good teams. I mean,
yeah,
there's a reason why.
He's all about his friend group. He's all about his hometown of Oakland. I mean, like, yeah,
it gives back to the community with his stuff that he does here in Portland. Yeah, I respect that. I mean, best overall, like number one right now, probably not. But
who you got then? Okay, let's hear it. Who you got?
Kemba Walker.
Kemba, dude, come on. Kemba's
UConn,
like,
baby.
Okay. UConn. Okay,
that's
with the
homer
UConn
pick.
Yeah, we got the UConn pick. If you want to see the best step back you'll ever see in your entire life, Big East tournament against Pitt.
I've seen it many, many times. I was watching that game. I remember I used to like reenact that game, like as a kid.
With your left hand?
That was.
You know what Pitt did wrong is they switched, and that's what Calhoun wanted, the head coach of UConn. He wanted to switch. They switched. Kemba was like, "Let's go." It's almost similar to what the Beavs are doing or did this year. They were like horrible in the Big East. They came back. The only way UConn can make it to the NCAA tournament was if they won the Big East at Madison Square Garden. They won the Big East and then won the national championship that year. Now, fast forward, he's doing his thing. He was in Charlotte for a while, did his thing with Michael Jordan. Now at Boston, great guy, great point guard, dealing with some injuries. It's all right, but still best point guard right now. True point guard.
Mams, do you think you said you watched that game? Do you think you've seen Doty play?
I mean, probably and not known it because I mean, I watched UConn games.
I was the one with the big knee brace on my left knee.
Always, yeah. She also has a YouTube video, Trick Shot Doty, where she gets Kemba involved a little bit.
Kemba is gotta share the love.
I know. I mean, that's just a homer pick. I love it. Okay. So
what do you got, T-Kirks?
I'm gonna go Luka, my third pick.
Ooh.
So is he a true point guard?
Oh yeah, he's like the epitome of a point guard, I think. Right? He's just a way bigger version of Jason Kidd.
I mean, he's listed as a point guard.
Huh? He is listed as a point guard.
Yeah,
and he is pretty good.
He's really good.
Machine. I mean, I think he's the future of the NBA, to be honest. Not taken away from anybody else, but
see, that key word there is future. You said future. I mean, number one right now? I don't know.
I mean, I love Dame, but I can't pick him. You pick Dame.
Okay, but there's somebody we're leaving off this list.
No, we got 9. We got 9 here.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the obvious answer. I think he's 2-time MVP. 2? Yeah, 2. Steph's gonna be my second pick. 4th pick in the draft. I mean, it's a no-brainer. He's kind of like shoot it before you turn it over type thing too.
Yeah, but I feel like he's a 2 guard. I feel like it's so hard in the NBA right now. There's
wait, time out. How is he a 2 guard, Doty?
Shooting guard.
No, he's not a shooting guard. He handles the ball like 90% of the time.
So does Embiid with Sixers, and he's not a point guard.
No, he doesn't. Okay, no, but keep going.
I would say Steph Curry is a 2 guard. I wouldn't say that he's a 2 point guard.
So what's
if you were to Google right now?
Yeah, what does Clay make? What is Clay then?
Clay
the point guard?
No, Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
He's a 2 or 3 guard.
He's the 2 guard. Steph is the point guard. Like Doty, come on. Really? Like you're
Okay.
way
If we
involved in
Google point guards right now, Steph Curry would not pop up.
Oh, he definitely would. He's
Doty,
listed as a point.
this is frustrating. Doty, you are way better than this. Steph Curry.
He's the greatest shooter the NBA has ever seen, and
he's
he
the
can
best
also-
shooter.
he
I
can also dribble
100%
well,
agree.
too. I think his dribbling is kind of slept on.
Yeah, his
Current
his
team, Golden
dribbling.
State Warriors, number 30 point guard.
All right,
Okay. I love that banter. Doty,
I'm gonna sip my wine.
Your second pick in this
Cool. We're gonna
draft.
talk about handles. All right, Kyrie Irving, hands down.
Get out here.
Talk about handles.
I didn't say handles.
True point guard. If you want to see
He's-
a true
He
point
can
guard,
score too.
I mean, he can score too, but he's not like. But he's the guy that's gonna come up and distribute and get guys open and do his thing.
I don't know when the last time you watched Kyrie was, but that's really not Kyrie. Kyrie might be like one of the most selfish people in the NBA, I think.
What?
Totally.
I disagree.
Okay. He was
Michael's
hurt.
up.
He had some mental break this year, so it's kind of been a tough year for him.
Hey, let him do his thing.
Tough pass.
He's still
Michael,
the best point guard.
6th pick in this draft, your second round pick. What do you got?
Honestly, I'm gonna go with Chris Paul,
Oh,
veteran,
yep.
just a floor general, literally just a great dude, a great teammate. I mean, if you want a guy to run your team, Chris Paul, and he's doing it even at an older age, man. So
He has 11 All-Stars. He's gonna be my next pick.
Wait, hold on a second. When we were on our way back from Bandon, we were in my car. We were talking about like what point guard do we want on our team? And I said Chris Paul. You, Jaws, and Kendra all beat me up for that pick.
I was sleeping. I slept the whole
Oh,
car.
you might be right. Oh, I love Chris Paul. Like, just that's obvious. Yeah, like leader. Get him in a high on ball. I mean, like yeah.
That his
Big man
15-foot
game.
jump shot
Yeah.
is by far the best in the league.
I love that.
Knock it down every time. Yeah, that's a good pick. And he's a true point guard.
He is a true point guard. Man, you get one more. Your third round pick.
oh, I'm up again.
Yeah.
I'll take this guy just because he plays so hard, and you guys will probably give me some heat for it. But Russell Westbrook, dude, is literally just on another level when it comes to just being a competitor.
So I have a
and
hard
yes,
time
he
with that one.
takes bad shots, and he
Does
sometimes
not
is-
pass the ball.
Yeah, sometimes.
Neither does Kyrie.
But just look at what he did, triple double wise, and just how hard he plays the game.
I love the way how hard he plays, but I will never see him as a true point guard because when he was on Oklahoma Thunder with Kevin Durant in I think it might have been 2010 or 11 when they were going through their playoff run, and
Mhm.
they had by far the best team. I'm pretty sure Harding was on the team too.
Yeah.
Russell would not pass the ball.
Fast
he
forward to 2021 and Kyrie Irving with the Brooklyn Nets, Doty. Like, come on.
I'm sorry, are they in the playoffs right now?
They will be, and Kyrie's gonna want the ball.
I'm sorry,
over
I'm talking about
Kevin
when
Durant.
Russell was in the playoffs. Anyway, I do agree.
agree.
I
Like,
do
I
agree
will-
with Russell being an animal, but
Machine.
he doesn't pass the ball.
Yeah,
Respect.
I'll respect his for how hard he works. Doty, who you got? Last pick. Your last pick.
Rajon Rondo.
Playoff
True
Rondo
point
or regular
guard.
season?
What's that? What's it matter?
Playoff Rondo? Like playoff Rondo.
Yeah,
Dude,
duh,
you must
playoff
not watch a
Rondo.
lot of NBA basketball. Like
Dude,
they always
you
talk
see
about
this
playoff
picture?
Rondo.
You see this picture behind me right now? That's Rondo.
Playoff
I like
Rondo
that.
is
I
like
like that pick though. That's a
way
good
better
pick.
stats.
When he was with the Celtics,
Celtics.
dude was amazing.
machine.
Celtics. I mean, there's a reason why LeBron wanted him on his team in LA to win a championship.
Mhm.
He's a solid point guard.
I do like Rondo. Playoff Rondo.
Yeah, I mean, for him to come up with that fake behind the back to finish, I mean, that alone just makes him top
Kind of
notch.
Michael's move, actually. Michael kind of had that a little bit.
With his right hand only.
Right
Oh,
hand
yeah.
only.
Okay. This could be a hater pick. If this is definitely looking forward to the future. This is somebody I would want to play with. LaMelo Ball. Like I just think that guy could hoop. I think LaMelo could hoop.
Oh, you know what? I don't hate that pick.
Yeah, he's talented.
And
I think
Michael
he's shown
Jordan
that.
likes them.
Mans doesn't like the pick.
I mean, he's a rookie, so there's not much to go off there. But what we've seen so far, he's a very exciting player.
Did you guys watch it? There was like a thing on, I think it was Facebook, because the whole Ball family's all over Facebook.
Ball in the family.
Yeah, all that stuff. But no, or maybe it was on YouTube. There was something about his career on how he like was unbelievable in high school, then ended up going to overseas somewhere and sucked. And then had like I don't know, something, went somewhere else and did really, really good. And then went, like he was like
sucked as
up
like
and
a
down.
16-year-old in like Lithuania. He was just like jacking up like 35
Or
footers.
Australia,
Kind of like
whatever.
messed around. No, and then he went to Australia and had like a great pro
He-
career. Like
He
after that,
balled out.
before he just got
Unfortunately.
drafted. Yeah.
I mean, Michael Jordan saw something in him, and Michael Jordan's the GOAT. So
Recap: Dame, CP3, Russ for Mans, Kimba, Kyrie, Rondo for you, Luka, Steph, LaMelo. I mean,
I feel like that's all over the map.
only one of us
That is-
has multiple MVP. It's got to be me. I mean, come on, Steph.
Daniel, Kirk, you think that you win every single time?
Of course I do. Like, I have will. I have spirit. I'm competitive greatness.
You're the best. You are at your best when your best is needed.
It was needed tonight, and we brought it.
Love it.
Man, thanks for being on the pod. You know, you mentioned kind of your story about how I related to it, but I got to be honest, man. Like I've always been really inspired by everything you're all about, how you live your life now, what you post on Instagram, you and your friends, how tight you are with those guys, your service to the community as a police officer. It's kind of everything you're about. Love it, man. I think you're a great contributor to the society.
Yeah, respect it. I mean, and you say that you have a lot of like fire inside of you, but I mean, just talking with you, first time talking with you tonight, and just cool, calm, and collected, and just well spoken, and just a lot of respect, and what you overcame, and then walking on and continuing for 5 years, like that's a lot. And then to get that award, I mean, just kudos to you as a person, and yeah, it's amazing. So really appreciate you coming on the pod.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. For sure.
All right, dude, let's cheers it and we'll get out of here. Doty.
Cheers it. Oh,
Cheers.
let me get the real one.
Cheers.